Hello and welcome to Women Speakers Association's WSA-TV, the premier show. I'm Laura Rubenstein, digital media and marketing strategist and host today of today's show. It's a very special episode. Thank you for bearing with us. I'm here today with Lois Creamer. How are you, Lois?
I'm wonderful. Happy to be with you today, Laura.
Yeah, and we've gone through some stuff to get here, but we have an important topic, which is for our speakers, how to get paid as a speaker, how to get those paid speaking engagements, how to achieve success through speaking. So, and I know you've been teaching this for how long?
20 years.
20 years, yes. So you are the expert. It's before this century. Speaking has been, business for a long, long time, and you've seen it change, I know. So tell us a little bit about your work and your passion for supporting speakers.
Well, I'll tell you that I find myself amazed that this is my 20th year because I had never planned on having my own business. This was never ever a plan. And I kind of, when I got back into the work field after staying home a number of years with my daughter, I started working in St. Louis, where I live, with a professional speaker here. And we had some success. And suddenly, Laura, all of these speakers in the Midwest wanted to come in town and take me out to lunch or dinner and talk to me. And after 5, 6 years, I was wondering if there could be a business in this for me. And so I decided I would sit down at my compact computer, the first desktop we had, and write down everything that I would pass on to a speaker. And I did that, and I started literally in October 1998. August 1998. And I was fortunate because I got some clients right away from people who knew me in the Midwest. I got some big breaks early on with National Speakers Association, who gave me some opportunities. And that's how I got here. And I love working with speakers. I think they're creative. They're people who generally do what they say. They're go-getters. And they take instruction well, which is good when you're a consultant. I find speakers to be the most interesting people. I've worked with people who speak on almost every topic you can imagine in every market, from people with disabilities to 4-star generals in the Army have been my clients. And
Wow.
it's been a fun ride. I love every minute of it.
Yeah, and you've seen the whole ride. And so if somebody wants to incorporate paid speaking into their business, here at Women Speakers Association, we're all about teaching people how to get seen, booked, and paid. So what are some of the foundational elements they need to have in place to start that paid part of their speaking career?
So it's a good question. And once you have your area of expertise, your next job is to have a great speech. And to become a great speaker, I think you need to be a great storyteller, because professional speakers communicate through the use of stories. Stories are what make your material, your points more memorable to people. And I tell people, if they really want to speak, to get to Toastmasters, number one, I call Toastmasters the off-Broadway of speaking, because I have lots of clients who go to Toastmasters every month to practice material, to get feedback. And also WSA, Women Speakers Association. This is a place to learn your craft. And also National Speakers Association is another organization for people who want to speak. But you have to have a message, and you have to be able to deliver that message in a very compelling way. And until you can do that, you're not ready to take your message on the platform and out with people.
Definitely.
And you need to be able to talk about, in a compelling way, what it is you can do for people. I say there are really 3 things for the business of paid speaking that I talk to my clients about: people, process, and profits. People, how do I attract people to my message? Who needs my expertise? Who has historically shown an interest in paying for my expertise? Second, process. What kind of systems can I plug into my business to make this go a little bit better? And number three, profits. How am I going to make money doing this? Can I make a living doing this? And should I be doing things other than just speaking in my business?
That's a good segue because that's what was in the back of my mind here is okay. So, and before we get to that question, I want to shout out to Thecia. She says hello. She's hoping to meet you in Dallas next week.
Great.
And Tracy's here and she's highlighting the fact that you need, communicate through the use of stories to make your points more memorable. So thanks for being here, everyone. And I am checking the comments here. And so, you mentioned, getting paid is one option. Under what circumstances could someone start a business and just with that revenue of just getting paid speaking engagements?
In the 80s, I might have said yes.
Mm.
That ship has sailed. The business model of speaking and just going from speech to speech to speech. It's not a realistic model if you want to make a living. I think that you have to have multiple revenue streams in your business. But most importantly, I think you need to have one area of expertise that you deliver in multiple ways. So I deliver my expertise through a speech. I deliver my expertise through one-on-one consulting or small group consulting, through webinars, through all kinds of different ways. I think that speaking is a great way to interest a lot of people in what you do. Speaking is how I get my clients, really, Laura. I travel around the country to NSA chapters and speak to them every year. And if somebody in the audience thinks I know what I'm talking about and feel like they need help, I hope I'm going to be the door they knock on. So speaking is a great way to get the word out about what you do, but also get paid for it.
But it's not the only revenue stream most people will rely on because it's not the 80s, like you said. It's and it's a great lead generating. So having a whole business model that includes speaking is what I'm taking away from here.
Absolutely right.
And one thing I've heard you say, if you're not good at selling, you won't last long in this business of speaking. What do you mean? Does every speaker who wants to get paid have to be good at closing a sale to get speaking gigs?
Only if you want to be successful in the long run.
So the answer is yes, you need to get good at closing. Yes.
Here's the reality. I talk to people who say, Lois, I'm a talented speaker. I've got a good message, but I'm not comfortable talking about myself. I'm not comfortable selling myself. And, my real answer to that is then you might want to look at another line of business. Because who is going to promote you if not you? Now, there are agents, there are VAs, there are speaker bureaus who can sell you. But here's the thing I always say. The only thing that doesn't change in your business is you. You can have a great person, train them. I'll train them for you to sell you your speeches. But when they leave, you have to be able to take over. And so the speaker always needs to be the best salesman at what they do. And I always tell people if they feel uncomfortable talking about themselves, to be thinking about what you're selling is a commodity. It's a product. I am selling my expertise. I'm selling my ideas and expertise, not me, my ideas and expertise. Sometimes if you make it a little less personal, but ultimately, you have to be the one who is good at selling.
Yeah, one of the things I always like to have people think about is you're not selling you, you're serving them.
It's true.
And so if you can take the pressure off you and really see is that expertise and ideas you talked about going to serve them? If then that's the process of showing them how. And we can take that S word out if you like, but it really is.
To me, selling and speaking, you're a consultative seller. You're talking to your client about how you can best fit into what their needs might be at any point in time. And if that isn't a fit, you don't belong there. You need to wait for an opportunity where you are a fit. Nothing is worse than taking a job when you're not sure that you're a good fit. Believe me, it's a disaster. And I think the best thing to do is to ascertain fit first. Fit is more important than fee.
Say
Because
that again. Fit is more important
fit is
than
more important than fee. Because
fee.
fit will allow you to have a relationship with this client. Instead of a one-time speech, they'll bring you back to do something else. They might use some of your consulting. They might buy a book or a product that you have. So you're going for a long-term relationship and not a short-term gain. So fit is the most important thing to me.
Nice. I have to agree with that. And, you know, yes, that long term is going to make it you if you're going to get better and better and better at figuring out who's going to be a best fit, then you'll get more fees for those best fits. So I think that's what a point well taken. And I just want to say hi to Wani and Jurassic. She says Lois gives the best advice, and you have
Uh,
been giving incredible. Listen to her. And Crystal Cunningham, hi there. So keep the comments coming. We are watching them. I'm popping them on screen here and there when we can. I have another question though. If someone wants to hire an assistant, a salesperson, you mentioned you could hire a speaker bureau, you can hire a VA to work with you for speaking bookings. What should they look for in that person? What would make that person successful for them?
well, you can't hire a bureau. You don't hire bureaus. What you can do is hire someone to market you, to sell you, and that can be a VA, it can be a marketing person, it can be whatever. Back when I first started my business, we had a great guy in NSA who has now passed, Bill Brooks, and Bill spoke on sales, and he was terrific. And Bill had one salesperson who was with him for over 20 years, and she was great. And somebody said, "Where did you find her, Bill?" And he said, "I found her at a department store." He went in to buy a suit. And she was so concerned that this suit be exactly what he wants. He said, "I want somebody working for me who takes that good of care of my clients." And he hired her from the department store. And she worked for him for 20 years. So I always say, look, hire somebody. First of all, you want to hire somebody who has a great attitude overall. You can't train a good attitude. You can train a skill set, but you can't train somebody to have a good attitude. Hire someone with some customer service experience. They don't have to have sales experience. But customer service, dealing with people, you want a people person, because we can train them to say what needs to be said about you. Somebody who's a willing spirit, a hard worker. Nowadays, we want somebody who works well on their own, unsupervised, so maybe has some past experience working in that way. But I think asking around, posting, I just had a client who got a new VA posting in a church bulletin board, a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom when I started in the industry.
So what I'm hearing you saying is you don't necessarily need someone who has all these connections and contacts in the industry. You need someone who has that customer service orientation who will serve clients. And then you can teach them your pitch, especially if you're good at the close. And if you're not good at the close, I know you help people do that, and how to present them. Great. Anything else you want to add to what to look for in an assistant who could help?
Well, I think you need to ask yourself questions. Do you want somebody on site? Is virtual okay with you? Is that something you're okay with? You want to agree on terms, obviously. And I would mention about terms. I am a big fan of paying somebody an hourly fee plus a percentage of business that they bring in for you. Too many speakers think, well, I'm going to hire somebody and just pay them a percentage of what they book. If I started selling Laura tomorrow, and I'm pretty good at selling, it could be 6 to 8 months before I get her an engagement. Because we work, the meeting industry is like you're hopping on a moving train. You never know when they're going to be in a planning mode. Lots of times our first connection is to hop on the train and find out when can we really have a substantive call when they're ready to talk to us about what we can do for them. So
Good points.
it can take a long lead time. And then you have to ask yourself, who would want to work for you in hopes that in 6 to 12 months they would get 10% of something?
Right.
I
So,
have seen this crash and burn for 20 years, this model. So I like the model of an hourly fee that honors the administrivia that people do for your business, as well as the outbound calling. And I think giving a bonus for business brought in keeps them hungry and keeps them wanting to look.
yeah. How much time should someone's plan to pay for? Like how many hours should a VA or a rep, a speaker rep work?
It's a hard question, and I think that as much time as you can afford really would be my answer, because nothing happens unless your name is getting out there and you're getting connected with people. Nothing is going to happen. Realize that you're going to have some ramp up time. If I hired somebody to sell me today, I would bring them in and I wouldn't let them pick up a phone for at least 2 weeks. I would have them sit at my side and listen to me talk to people, listen to the way I talk about what I do, and answer questions that they have.
And it's really important that they get your voice, they know the benefits of your business. And then one of the toughest questions that people make it tough. I don't know if it's a really tough question. How much should a speaker charge?
Oh, they're going to get this all the time.
Yeah.
I always want to say $29.50. Next question. The hardest question to answer is, what is the value of my intellectual property on the marketplace? It's a very hard question to answer. I suggest that you look for others speaking in your same area of expertise and see what they're charging. Now, there are some ways you can find out about this by going to eSpeakers, which is one of our benefits with WSA. So you can get an idea of a fee range of people. But a big mistake is overcharging. A big mistake is undercharging. And so it's one of the things I consult on, because you have to, there's a sweet spot that you have to hit. And so it's going to take some trial and error too. If you start out asking a fee and everybody is saying, that's great, we want to go ahead, and you're not getting any pushback, that's a sign. Might be time to raise your fee. Your fee, you should be getting a little bit of pushback on your fee. You should have to justify your fee a little bit, I think. But you shouldn't be getting feeling like you have to compromise every time you're having a conversation to lower your fee. That's a sign that you're too high. That's a sign that you're putting yourself out there at not a marketable price. But one thing, Laura, I always tell my veteran speakers, anytime you think I'm not charging enough, you probably aren't.
Yeah, makes sense. So, are there, let's talk about industries, because it's a tough, you said, like, what is your industry,
Yes.
providing? What's the market rate? What industries are better to go to look for paid speaking engagements in general?
Well, that's a good question and a tough question. Let me tell you why it's a tough question. Because your targeted industry really depends upon your area of expertise. Some can take expertise, like when I used to do sales programs, I could take that expertise in several different cross several different markets. The reason that I am a stickler to target is this. You have a finite amount of time to put yourself out there, to sell yourself. We all have a finite amount of time to do it. So as for you, stick to that amount of time into a target market that has historically used someone like you and paid someone like you, where this won't be something brand new, or this won't be the first time that they've ever paid someone, and you're not trying to talk somebody into working with you, which, by the way, is a horrible mistake. If you ever feel like you're talking someone into working with you, I have said to people, at this point, I feel like you're wanting me to talk you into working with me, and I don't do that. So at this point, I need you to either take some time and decide or not.
Great
But
way to turn the tables on them in the sales process, right?
you have to. You have to.
Yeah.
But depending upon your expertise, I think great markets are healthcare. There's lots of change going on in healthcare right now. It's a very uncertain time. Financial services is a very good field right now. Financial services, I mean banks, mortgage houses, mutual fund companies, stock brokerage firms, credit unions, manufacturing. Manufacturing is going up now, and manufacturing can be a great industry. But what you want to do is pick an industry, say financial services, and then look for markets within that industry. And markets within financial services would be banks, credit unions, mortgage houses, and the Association of Credit Union Professionals. All of the associations, insurance now falls in financial services. So it's kind of the spoken wheel marketing thing with the industry, financial services in the middle, and the spokes, all of the different markets. But it's not limiting. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to limit myself. And I say you could call for the next 800 years in financial services and not hit the same person twice. Obviously, there are ways to find who the decision makers are in each of these markets, and many of them are different in each of these markets. But that's what you need to do. You need to I think the people who make the most money target market. And then
I agree.
Let me just say this too. You create a momentum for your business, I think, Laura, when you target. Because when I did financial services, if I worked for Bank of America, Regions Bank was very interested in knowing that I had experience with banks. If I worked with State Farm Insurance, Prudential, Columbia, Kaiser Permanente, you create a momentum and they start thinking of you as one of us. And that's where you want to be. And that's when your fees start heading north. You become someone well-known within an industry. But let me just say this. If you target market, it does not preclude you from doing a speech for anyone who might find you on the web where your message would be meaningful. As long as you're a fit, go for it. But just ask for the time you're going to spend.
I'm cheering you on because that's what I love telling people when I work with them as a marketer is like, yes, you want to specialize in your message outgoing, but other people are going to find you and you can say yes to them for sure. I love that. And so I'd like to learn a little bit more about how you work with speakers and to help them land more business, but maybe you can share like a couple of stories about success stories by what means of how you work with people.
I work in a couple of different ways. My bread and butter are kind of my 2-day programs where I work one-on-one with a speaker on every facet of the business, from positioning through selling, through futuring, what products they ought to be thinking of down the road and when they ought to think about them, picking out target markets, that kind of thing. For people who don't want to do it all at once, or they can do hourly, and I have hourly packages where I do that. Mostly when I consult now, people come to me in St. Louis. I just don't want to travel as much. My speaking now is only to speakers, but I don't want to travel as much. I've got a bad back. I'm not going to be traveling as much. But we can work virtually, however you wish. But I got a great call a couple of years ago, and this gentleman said, I was given your name, and I want to speak on leadership. And I said, super, what is your background? What are you leaving to get into this? And he said, I'm leaving the Army. And I said, what was your last area of responsibility in the Army? And he said, I was head of NATO.
Wow.
And I said, typically at this time, General, I ask, what makes you a subject matter expert? But I think I can skip that at this point. Um, and he came into St. Louis, flew into St. Louis. We spent 2 days, and he now does speaking and consulting. Um, he had the message. He just didn't know how to package it and promote it. And so if you have a speech, you have the expertise. You've got, in order to be ready to work with me, you have to have the expertise and you have to have the speech. I don't write speeches. I don't tell you what to speak on. I don't tell you how to give a speech. I tell you how to monetize that, how to monetize intellectual property. When you have those and you want to make money with them, that's when people call me.
Beautiful. And then they work with you. And how can people find out about you?
I think the easiest place is to go to my website, which is bookmorebusiness.com. I also have to mention I've got a great book that just came out last year, Book More Business, Make Money Speaking. And if you go to bookmorebusiness.com, sign up for my blog. And I have been writing it for a few years. My book is based on that blog, by the way, updated some of the earlier ones. But you can reach me on all of social media. I'm active everywhere. And you can find out probably more than you want to know on my website.
Terrific. There's one, we're running out of time here, but it's been so rich, so good to inspire our speakers to get more revenue from their speaking engagements. I know you're a wholehearted believer in that.
Yes.
And you've been a part of Women's Speakers Association for quite a while. I wanted to hear from you about what value and results you've received by being a part of it and why you recommend it for speakers.
Well, I was introduced to the Women's Speakers Association very early on, shortly after it started, by our mutual friend, Gina Carr. And so I signed on and have been a member. And then I can't remember how many years ago I became a premier member. I think that if you're serious about speaking, this is where you belong. If you're serious about speaking, you can get a lot of great resources as a premier member. Now, I'm not getting any commission by saying this, but you have access to a lot of great information as a premier member. And one of the things that you'll find, I think, with Women's Speakers Association that I have found, it's a great place to network. It's a great place to get well-considered feedback from people who are familiar with this industry. None of my friends know what I do. My husband still doesn't even know what I do. So this is a place to come where people get what you do and you can be in conversation. It's also a great place to get information. People put up great blog posts. I put up industry news anytime there's something I think that will impact your selling your speeches. I like to put up. But it's just a great resource that you cannot not afford to do, I would say.
You need to afford to afford the membership. And we have a free member level right now called the associate level, where you can join at joinwsa.com. You can also join at the premier level at that same link, joinwsa.com, and get the benefits of what you're talking about, Lois, which is added visibility and more credibility and more content, because I know you put incredible resources out on the premier members page, which I've gleaned and used in my business, and I know a lot of other speakers have too.
Yes.
So and the support that's there, like you said, is incredible. So if you want to take your speaking to the next level, work with leaders in the field to cheer you on, show you the ropes, help you, guide you in the right direction, join WSA.com at the premier level. We'll be there for you. And also you can download, try us out. We've got a speaker success plan available for you when you join at either level. So we start right from the beginning, getting you value. So is there any last advice or words you'd like to leave everyone with today?
Well, I would just say that one of the things I told Laura before we went live is I want to get more of our members in WSA being paid to speak, being paid to be on the platform. And here's the secret to doing that. Ask for money. Ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario if I ask for a fee to speak and they say, you know what, we don't have a budget, we didn't budget anything for this. Your fallback can be, well, under certain circumstances, I may be willing to waive my fee, not speak for free, waive my fee if you provide me with a recording of my speech, allow me to sell products, uh, allow me to pass out whatever it is. I want you to start asking for money because pretty soon you're going to find people are going to say that will be fine.
And it will be.
So something I always say is you risk a yes every time you ask.
Bravo. Let's take that. Let's do that and let Lois know. And we will be back with you for another episode of WSA TV, the premiere show. Thank you again, Lois, for this
Laura.
rich and expert information. Bye for now, everyone.